We're here on the floor of the PDAC 2024 in Toronto, biggest mining show in the world. And we're here with Thomas Ullrich. I'm guessing some German ancestry somewhere, but the name, from Aston Bay. And they're working a couple of interesting projects. And just acquired a new one. And we're going to talk about this now. But first of all, we would like to hear a bit what setting the stage for 24. A short recap of 2023 because that was a big year.
It was. We had a significant drill program from our partners, American West, and I have to give a shout out to our partners. A great partner. They've been moving the project aggressively, in difficult markets, and they certainly deserve credit for this. We had a significant drill program last summer. Well, geophysical, RC delineation, resource delineation drilling, and deep core drilling for new discoveries, and so successful on all fronts. Those of you who've been watching the share price probably saw a bit of a roller coaster there. It got pretty exciting. We made an exciting discovery. I think the market got ahead of itself.
As it often does.
Yeah, I think misinterpreted some of the the visual core logs that we put out. They probably didn't even read them, and whether it was just wishful thinking or perhaps there's always a potential for some little bit funny business in the market. But the stock price went up very high at 34 cents, I think was the high, and then came back down. And of course, when this happens, it boomerangs way too far down. But we were able to get a financing complete, and we think now a bit more sense has come back into the market. People see what we're doing. They understand that the significance of what happened last summer. And really, what we did last summer was essentially we've drilled out a resource, the maiden resource, for the Canadian and North American investors. We'll have our 43-101 version of that resource out in a month or so.
So far, it's the JORC, the Australian standard, right?
Yes, I can't speak to that, but you mentioned it. So
yeah, that's 205,000 tons of copper, I think, is what the metal contained, right?
And of course, we think that this is already a significant amount of copper, and the 43-101 number will be very similar. It'll likely be a little bit smaller. The Canadian rules are a little bit tougher. We have to constrain that resource within a mineable pit, so that might end up cutting some stuff off, on the bottom. But we do plan on going back. The plan is we're going back starting this month, opening up our camp and getting back up there. And the plan is for twice as much drilling as we did last season, and really with the goal of doubling the number that we have already. We don't have our resource out yet, but we're already planning on doubling it. So that's great. And of course, we're also, this year, just like last year, we're planning on doing some geophysics. The drilling of last year was very successful. The geophysics and the testing of those anomalies was very, very successful.
Meaning that when it showed something on the geophysics, you hit what you were hoping to.
All four holes we drilled, we hit copper, around, within realm of error, for these geophysical anomalies, right? And it's very rare that you get 4 for 4 hits in this business, right? Now, of course, the hits weren't. We hit copper mineralization at depth that we always, with our models, we always suggested that it was there. But we never had a chance to drill it and really hit it. But this time, this past summer, we hit it. And the important thing is that we hit the same minerals, the same mineral assemblage of minerals that we hit at depth, and that shows you that we're hitting the same thing at depth that we see at the surface. We know at the surface we have very large zones, very thick zones of mineralization. It's the same process. We think it's the same fluid, the same process. We've demonstrated we're getting the same mineralization at depth. Now it's just a matter of, can we get, the similar thicknesses and perhaps even greater lateral extents at depth? That's really what the big exploration discovery target is for us.
Yeah,
it's really where the excitement is.
Yes, but it's also a bit more, you said it's deep. It takes longer to get there. It's more costly a bit, but
certainly for the drilling, but you should know, for the mining, yes, if you do have to access something by either by a decline or a shaft, it's important thing to know, you're moving a lot less rock, and you're pulling out much higher grade material. So, it's
evens out
open
for-
open pits are not always the solution. You know, and certainly when if you look at the time value of things, you know, an open pit's going to be, if it's a large open pit, it's going to be a lot more difficult to permit. It's probably going to take a lot more time, and you got to do a lot more stripping, you know, to get that thing into production. So, you know, there's a lot of good things to say about underground mines too.
Well, we see how it goes there, because as we see, the drilling confirms that and fleshes that out, let's say. The other thing is, we're talking about the Storm project in Nunavut, of course, which is pretty far north, which didn't well deter you from picking up another project in Nunavut, bit further south, I think around here somewhere.
Exactly. Yeah. No. So it is further south. You know, it's about 1,000 kilometers south. So, you know, this new one, it's practically tropical compared to Storm. You know, in terms of the climate. You know, it is. It's
That's
about
what Canadians say, tropical.
well, you know, it's about 500 kilometers just north of Yellowknife. So it's really very close to a very you know, the hub from the north for the north there. And you know, the working season is much longer. You know, and you know, we think it's a great project. You know, the reason we picked it up is because really because the potential. You know, with Storm, you know, we've learned a lot of things. You know, both you know, from the business front and from the exploration front, particularly. You know, we think we got a much better idea of how to find these things in the Arctic, and we have these this new project. You know, it has a, you know, same kind of mineralization, like got a couple of rocks on the table. The idea is that, you know, you can't tell one, you know, if you wouldn't really know, you wouldn't know which one was which. The only difference with this new project is, in addition to the copper, it has significant other credits here, like the rock I have on the table. It has 5.6 kilograms per ton of silver with it. And if you pick this rock up, it's a lot harder, like a heavier, like I'm used to,
that's the one you gave me
I'm
earlier.
used to showing people how heavy the Storm rocks are, being 80% copper. You add 5.6 kilograms of silver to that, take away a little bit of the coppers, but still that rock that's a heavy piece of mineralization.
So interesting. It's called Epworth, or the project, right?
It's called Epworth, yeah. And
what are you planning to do there this year?
yeah, well, you know, this project, you know, it's very similar to Storm. You know, we think it's on that, it's a sediment hosted style of mineralization. So we have experience with that. But interestingly, it's kind of more like the African, Central African copper belt style of mineralization. You know, it's you know, it has the copper, obviously very high copper, but it has a lot of these other metal credits, silver, very high grade silver. It has some significant cobalt as well, you know, up to 2,000 ppm cobalt, a little bit of gold as well. We have you know, 3 grams per ton gold, which is a very you know, a nice bit of gravy, let's say, to add to things. And then of course the zinc and lead. You know, we don't really talk a whole lot about the zinc and lead, but there's a ton of it here as well. So, you know, what we want to do, you know, a lot of the deposits, you know, in the copper belt, for example, if you want to talk about Kamoa-Kakula, this is not Kamoa-Kakula, not yet. Anyways, we haven't demonstrated that. But in terms of an exploration model, it's very similar. You know, there always was a significant amount of high-grade mineralization at the surface, you know, around Kamoa-Kakula, and you know, it was a little bit thin. The trick was always to figure out where's that spot where you get the, you know, where the stratigraphy, where the depositional setting is right, where you can get the thicker accumulation, you know, 10 plus meters of that, you know, 5% copper, and that and even better, right? And that's really a structural, stratigraphic kind of a problem, and a geophysical problem. So you know, it took a lot, you know, even though Kamoa-Kakula is a huge thing, you know, Robert Friedland, Dave Broughton, the geologist there, they didn't find it their first drill program. You know, it took a while for them to figure it out. But you know, we can benefit from that now because you know, get a feel for, you know, what kind of where should we be looking. And so what we're going to do this summer, first half of the summer at least, we want to fly some geophysics, because that's going to be very important for us. Look for conductivity, probably fly an EM program, electromagnetics. And get some experienced geologists you know, on the rocks here. There's a lot of outcrop here. It's kind of unusual. There's probably like 70% outcrop. It's mostly rock outcrop and thin lakes here, right? So it's actually, the lakes are great for moving around, and of course the outcrops. You love to have outcrops. You don't want to be in that sort of swampy muskeg, you know, port, you can get. And actually, I've known about this project for several years, and I've kind of just discounted. I love the grades and everything, but I had it in my head. I had the idea that this was a bad area to work, because I thought that this is near the copper mine district, the hamlet of Kugluktuk. They used to call it copper mine, obviously. Historic mining, at least for the Inuit, this is where they would get their copper, native copper from. So it's obviously a very mineralized area. But the problem with it is that it was near essentially a river basin, so you had a lot of that swampy areas, very difficult to work. And also, it was in this area right around the copper mine itself. It's an area of caribou calving and migration, right? Okay. And so that's really a no-go zone. But just in the last year or so, the government of Nunavut has been investigating, and they've sort of set out zones on the map that are restricted, or limited use. Luckily enough, I finally last week I finally plotted this up. Say, oh, this project is actually outside of the limited use area. Okay. So we're not in any environmentally sensitive or caribou zone. We're not in any fish habitats we have to worry about, and we're up high on nice dry rocks, and so it's a great spot to work. And it's just been kind of ignored for that reason.
So luckily for you,
exactly. And so now we can get out here, do that geophysics, see if we can get some significant targets, and smart targets by doing good geology, good geophysics. And then whether we get to drilling this year or not, we'll have to see. We're still luckily the previous operators have been forward thinking, and they've started the process of getting the permits required. Okay. And so that is already well along. It's quite possible we could have our drill permits by May or June, and being so far south, we can essentially start a program later in the summer, and still get a drill program. I mean, it'll depend on whether we have the targets and whether we have the permits all in place. But being in Canada here with a Canadian project, we can raise flow-through funds. There's quite a lot of interest for flow-through funds, and it's very, financially advantageous for us. Essentially, we can spend 75, 80 cent dollars, maybe even better. We'll see how it works out. But it's the funding won't be such a problem, I think. So
that's an important thing nowadays, especially.
Absolutely. And then of course, adding on, some of the catalysts that we expect to see coming from the Storm project give us, the catalysts I'm talking about, starting a program in the next month. We'll have our resource out, North American compliant resource. Our partners are working up some of the metallurgical stuff and some of the mine planning or stuff. And so if we can start to get that kind of information out, I think there's a segment of our investors, both for American West and Aston Bay. They love the discovery story. And, that's always been the Aston Bay story. But, this mine building or this development story, it's a fantastic story as well, but I think there's been some resistance in the market to really believe that, that mine can get put into place. But I think once we can get the information out, we've already got the Australians have got their resource out. We can get some information out about, the mine itself, something so that people can start putting, some numbers on the costs and, some timelines on how long will this take. And I think on both cases, I think the market's going to be pleasantly surprised when they see that. And I think, that is going to get us, well positioned for, a step up because there's a whole other source of value, in this project. And of course, going forward, we're not there yet, but, if we can get forward to the point where we can actually have a revenue generating mine, that makes the exploration can really take off at that point. Because if we don't have to go to the market every year, to raise, the kind of funds like the American West has to raise this coming year. Well, they've already raised $10 million. They'll probably have to pick up a bit more, but, it's going to be a significant program. But definitely, if you can do that in a non-dilutive way, you can, and you have a mine there. You have a mine there, so you got all the infrastructure. You can, that can be your base. Everything is cheaper, and it's just so much better. So it's really great stuff coming for Aston Bay and American West.
That sounds good, and that sounds like a good closing remark here. Thank you very much for the update. And well, happy we came to Canada to get all the new stuff directly from you. Thank you very much.